Page 50, just a word introduction before we go to page 50. Following the Mishnah, it's a discussion about a person that was stuck while he was in his way. What does that mean? A person is Shabbat observant, he walk, especially in the Talmudic time, so either by himself or have a donkey, but it has a lot of applications. And boom, Shabbat is coming. And now the issue is, what exactly you need to do? Remember, we discussed many times that in Shabbat, basically, if it's a public domain, how far a person can go, only, you remember that? We said only 4 cubits.
Yep.
Now, the question is, we make now some leniency. The rabbis come up and said, guess what? He needs to go to his place. He needs to go to wherever he lives. And he's close by. He needs to make a declaration. And he needs to say, I'm dwelling, for example, in the place so-and-so. And then, from that point, he can measure 2,000 cubits, and he's fine if he's in that
If he's
framework.
within the 2,000 amot of that,
2,000 amot
location, yep.
Okay. Now, the problem is that this guy, and again, is a Talmudic mindset with the trace scenario, which we can derive a lot of points. This guy wasn't clear. The place that is so close by him, it was a huge tree, and the tree have a shade area, and he basically planning to be in that area as a place of dwelling, and then he planning to measure the 2,000 amot. Now, think logically together with me. One rabbi, his name is Rava, he said, mean nothing. Since it wasn't specified, so you have to go only literally, meaning only
4 amot.
4 amot. That's it, nothing else. Then the others said, look, if he's saying that he's planning to dwell, especially if he said a specific place, so from that place we can go so lenient to say, okay, let him go from that place 2,000 cubit and it's fine. Now the issue is called in a way safek, or according to some rabbis it's even sfek sfeika. Safek in Hebrew meaning a predicament, dilemma, quandary. You're not sure. What is the not sure here? That where exactly he is place of residence. Now soon you see the Talmud said, especially since we have here Larry, who is a great-grandson of the Vilna Gaon, that's the methodology of thinking in that ingeniously, which is, you see the juxtaposition between this quandary to other quandary very soon. So hold your brain, because we're going to a high gear now. Listen to this. Since we have a doubt of his statement, one rabbi said, is no such a thing. If he did not specify, you know, in Judaism it's very important to say clearly, unequivocally, what exactly you plan, so forget it. The other said, no, we have to go lenient, we have to give him the chance, this is the place, we have to measure 2,000 amot, etc., etc. So we're now in page 50a, and I'm not going so much today in the wording, I'm more going with the concept, so it will not be overwhelming for you to see it. You see the simplicity in a way, otherwise it looks a little hard to understand. Amar Rabba Maitama de Rab, Mishum de lo mesayem atri, which means this guy didn't say specifically. Today I'm here, 4 cubit. So let's trace back all of our studies in the past, almost 2 Masechtot. What do we study so far? There have to be 2 things in order for a person to make a dwelling. One, if it's in a public domain, we said if he's dwelling in a place, he have how much? He have 4 amot. And another condition, he had to have mechitza. He had to have a partition, so we know that he is within the public domain, he is a personal domain. Okay? Now this guy is from nowhere, so you don't know what's going on. So that's one school of thought. Another one, so Rashi explained that it's only under that tree, it's a shady area, it's a large tree, he can stay there, but if you want to measure, even you want to give some measurement, you have to reduce the place that he is under the tree, that domain, it's out of question. Now, ve'ikadamre, another option, אמר רבא מה איתם על רב משום דקסבר כל שאינו בזה אחר זה אפילו בבת אחד אינו. If something not carried one after the others, which means the specification, the expression was not clear, in other words, if he said, I'm dwelling in a place X, and I'm planning from place X to go 2,000 cubits, and therefore I'll be able to be whatever it is in my planning domains, because remember it's almost twilight, it's almost Shabbat. So since it's one dependent on the others and one lead to the others and it's all tied together, you don't know how to handle. Now you see a juxtaposition and you clarify this issue. One of the great Litvaks, rabbis, his name is Reb Chaim Brisk. Now look how Reb Chaim Brisk juxtaposed this and you see the connection. There is issue in Kiddushin, in the law of marriages. Imagine a guy came in and he see two sisters. They are both gorgeous. Let's call one Rachel and one call Leah. And this guy said, you became my wife. You both became my wife. You both became my wife. Now what happened? Can they both become his wife? Is a Torah prohibition against marrying two sisters?
That's correct.
Can one of them become his wife? No, use your brain. You tell me.
One could, but not.
Which one?
Well,
Someone's got to
you have to ask one or the other.
No, Gil.
Which one? The oldest one.
So,
Or you could do like Yaakov.
no, Yaakov, no. So, because it wasn't in a consequent order, he didn't say, Rachel, you become my wife. Leah, you become my wife. That's different. He approached both of them. So 1 plus 1, how much is it? Two, right? So it means you have now a quandary within a quandary. Okay? Because by the Jewish law, he cannot marry both. And since he have declaration, we said, guess what? Zippo. That's one point. Why Zippo? Because the whole statement is illegitimate. If it was a consequent statement that one point led to the other point, then you combine them and you make decisions. But since he make a declaration that at the first place it's contradicted the foundation, so even you can argue and you say that potentially each of them can be his wife, but since the foundation wasn't right, then you cannot combine it. Now let's juxtapose it to our discussion. Since this guy needs to get to his house, but he make unclear declarations, so then one cannot lead to the others. And we have here the complications, how to take this guy. One disturb the others. My benai. What is exactly the difference between the two explanations we just said? Ika benau liknu li be'arba amot migush mone. Which means, under the tree, there are 8 cubits, and we need to measure this guy, because as we said in a public domain, we measure him for what?
4 cubits.
4 cubits. So, can he go in a double way? Because we are not clear what exactly is his location. So therefore you cannot take at the first place his statement, because nothing was clear. Nothing come out clear from him. So it means you have to pick and choose how you take his statement. You take his statement seriously, and then you circumscribe, you limit him to certain domain or not. So now we again go to another discussion, which is what happened if this declaration in a subsequent order. So גוף אמרה, בכל דבר שאינו בזה אחר זה אפילו בבת אחת אינו, if something it's B depend upon A, and A wasn't clear, so B cannot fulfill because A wasn't there. Here's an example. Guy needs to give a tithe. Let's say he have, for the sake of understanding, live in Eretz Israel, and he has a certain amount of contribution need to give. Let's say you have 51 51 510 kilogram of something, let's say something that grain that he needs to bring as a contribution. How much contribution he need to give? 10%.
10%.
Which is how much he needs to give?
10%. I mean,
which is
a tenth.
Which is 510. How much is it?
well, 510 is 51.
51,
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Excellent.
Yeah, okay,
I just
yes.
want you to be with me. Okay. So if you
Giving
make
us these hard math
exactly,
problems.
if we have exactly 51, we solve the problem, right? 51, we solve. Now, if instead of 51, he made only 40, or he made only 50, what exactly the measurement of the 510? What's the problem? You have 510, he's supposed to give 51. If he gave a different measurement, now you have to think what left over, what category. You remember something that is called tevel. Tevel meaning a produce that's supposed to be tight, but wasn't tightened yet.
Right, wasn't tight.
Tight, thank you. Tight yet. So now you see the problem? He gave a tight, but he didn't give a tight properly.
Right.
So now you're accepting the tight, but you have a quandary over the leftover. So because he wanted to use as as a food or whatever it is, the leftover grain, you have to measure. Can you say what's the option? Two options. Option number one, you said, okay, take out of 40 another 11. And that 11 is tevel, and the rest he can use. Or you said, oh, you can't do that. Why you cannot do that? Because you have to measure it accordingly. So guess what? He gave 40, so he has to go only by 400, which means 110, it's tevel. Verstehst? You understand? Okay. So they said, in one hand, his fruit, his produce is fine, but his tie, it's not proper yet.
Right.
So he said, why are you saying so? What is our discussion? That something come in a subsequent order. He did tie, but he didn't complete his actions. Okay? So it's a come in a subsequent order, so you don't know how it works. So he said, no, you cannot compare it. He says, why? Shani Maaser de Aita lechatzaim. Which means, in the law of tie, what you can say? If you make a declaration and a half, we'll take it. Let's face it, it's all kind of circumstance that people have, and because it can be open and it's a contribution, it can follow up later. But here you talk about person need to dwell on a Shabbat. So how the Tosfot said how you compare it in the law of where you're staying under the tree, or what exactly the kinyanim versus the law of tithe. So he said you cannot compare it. Forget it, no deal. And as a side note, the Ritva have a different approach, but I'll just give you the simple way. So we'll go now with another challenge. It's almost like a board meeting, right? The next challenge.
That's right.
You watch the Israeli Knesset, and sometimes you're wondering, so many parties and so much argument and so much going on. So I always have a word of comfort. And the word of comfort is the Israeli government is basically the same as a big shul board meeting. You have many opinions, everyone wants to express himself, but it's
right.
all in the same framework. Anyway, והרי מאסר בהמה, I'm joking. והרי מאסר בהמה, ללית לחצי. So here we talk about another thing. Now we need to bring another proof to our discussion. So the Torah said in the book of Leviticus chapter 27 that when you have animals, ha'asiri yeh kodesh, which means the 10th, it's a consecrated. It belongs to God.
Right.
So if you have 10 animals, 10 cows, you need to give one to Hashem. Okay. With that in mind, you take the 10, let's call it a pure animal in that sense, because they can be fitting to a Beit HaMikdash to walk. Let's say if it's goat, for example, and you take 110. It's a long in the chapter 10 in Tractate Bechorot they explain how to do it. So now Can you take a half of the goat? You can't do that, right?
Unless you're King.
What?
Unless you're King Solomon.
All right, yeah. So how you do that? Or can you make it over the two animals, one after the other? So you pointed one animals and then you follow the other one. So אמר רבא, יצאו שניים בעשירי, וקראן עשירי ו11 מעורבים זה בזה. So he count those animals. And now what happened, he says, this is the 10th, and this is the 11th. So what happened is, so you have this idea of the subsequent order, because this one came out,
Right.
and the other one came out. So can you compare this to our discussion of the Kinyanim and Shabbat? The Gemara rejected. They said, no, you know why? Why? Because in the animal tithe, it happens sometimes you're making a mistake. You said 9 and it's a 10. You know, you have so many, sometimes you mix up, right? You have 11, you call it 10. It happens, right?
Mm-hmm.
You made a mistake. So if you call the 10 9, Tosfot said here, he elaborated on that. You call the 10 9, and you mix up between there. So what happened is, that appointed animal, let's say you have a marker, you have a number of those animals. Nowadays especially they have markers, right? So you pointed the wrong animal. That animal basically, if you count it again, it was number 9. But you pointed that animal as a number 10. So basically, in the situation like that, you have sometimes the idea of two animal sacrifice. One is it's a sanctity of Tai, Kedushat Maaser, and the other one is called Shlamim. It's a separate offering. But because he's not sure, Tosfot said, which one is the real 10th, so he have to go stringency in both ways. Okay? Detnan. This is a proof protracted Brorot, page 60. קרא לתשיעי עשירי, לעשירי תשיעי, ל11 עשירי, שלושתם מקודשים. This guy mixed up. And he mixed up the 9 he called the 10, and the 10 he called and the 9 he called 10, and the 10 he called 9, and the 11 he called 10. Mishmash. Mm-hmm. So because he make declaration, you know, in the Torah law we take very seriously the statement you make. You make commitment, boom. So again, can we compare this to the subsequent order of Shabbat? Again, we rejected it. We said it's uncomparable. Because in the animal situation, you have to take all the three and make it the offering, the minute you make the declaration. But here in the declaration of Shabbat is different. The third idea, we need to bring another proof. You know, they constantly challenge. You go to those executive meetings, Larry, you see it all the time, right? If people have objection, never end it. So that's now the third one. I want you to have some fun today.
Absolutely.
One of the things that we need to bring an offering, it's a bread that is called a thanksgiving. You know, every morning we said Mizmor LeTodah. It's a special offering. It's made out of chametz, and it was a daily offering. So so if a person made a mistake, for example, he have a 40 challah roll the way that it should be, and then he figure out, did I made it or not? You know, it's like a guy. You pick up the phone. It ever happened to you? And you call, and the guy said, hello, and you stuck. You don't remember to whom you called. Did it ever happen to you?
Far too often.
All right.
Not since last week.
Yeah. Not since yesterday.
So imagine that the person take a bread, he have a 40, and then he's not sure. Mm-hmm. Did I tie? Did I not tie? So now he take another 40, and now if you made a mistake and you consecrated something, we don't take it, because in a sense you made a mistake. So he said here, "Veleita bazeh achar zeh," is no such a thing that one follow the consequent order. So you cannot make the consecration one follow the other. V'itmar todah shenishchata al 80 chalot. If you have 80 chalot and you have one is the offering of thanksgiving. Chizkiah amar kadshu al 40 מתוך 80. Rabbi Yochanan amar lo kadshu al 40 מתוך 80. One said that you can go 40 out of 80, and the other one not, because again you are in a quandary. Ha'itmar ala, so now you see a contradiction. So ha'itmar ala amar Rab Zera kol modim hechad amar lekadsh 40 מתוך 80 dekadshi. If one said 40 out of 80, it's fine, it's consecrated. Lo יקדשו 40 אלא יקדשו 80 כולנו לפליגי. But if he said in the opposite way, 40 For the 80, everyone said that it's not a dispute. Why? The local Jew. You cannot make it as a consecrate because you cannot follow a subsequent order in a situation like that. Kiplige bestama, which means only problem is if the guy wasn't clear. Wasn't clear, then is a problem. So one said that you have to have a responsibility, which means that if it happens that you lost or it became impure, 40 out of them, so the other 40 will substitute, and therefore he made it as a condition. So it means that he is intent to make a tie only 40 out of 80, and therefore the same way we talk about under the tree, because the under the tree, so you don't say 4 out of 8 because it's not part of his responsibility. Now let's turn the page, and now we 50b, which means one felt that he intends to have the whole 80, which means that it's not applicable. It's like Rashi said, "V'alo efshar." It's impossible. אמר רבי לא שנו לה בעילן שתחתיו 12 אמה, אבל בעילן שאין תחתיו 12 אמה, אני קצת ביתו ניכר. You talk about huge tree. You see, you have in your Gemaras some pictures? No, tell me, what is written in your English Gemaras? Dave, what did they say?
Well, they're talking since the tree's width is less than 12 amot, the middle 4 amot necessarily include at least a section of the 4 amot areas on either side of it. So that's regardless of whether this 4 amot consists of the middle section or one of the side sections. We may be
11.
We may be sure that at least a portion of the 4 amot residence lies within the middle 4 amot.
Right. So you have 4 and you have 4. And you have 4 under, and so you end up by 11. Okay. So he said, now it's an issue. How do you know that the 4 in the middle you ended? So Rashi said, so how do you divide the middle 4 from all the others? So in my book, I elaborate on this Rashi. We're running out of time, but I urge you to read it, because the key issue is how you judge the middle part of the 4. You have 4, and how you judge the middle part of the tree, and that's the reason why Rashi used the klomar. Because why you have to say that it's makom mevorach, it's a place that you selected the middle 4, because the middle 4 is basically under the tree, that domain. So how you count it? So he said, Dilma you have to go in both sides of 4, but not the middle one. You have to go by huge one that they have under his domain 4 cubits. So then the middle one has to be part of his choice, because that's the way we know which one is there. So instead, now Tanik Vader Rab, Tanik Shemuel. So now you have the 2 brighted, one followed Rab, one followed Shul. Tanik Vader Rab, Mishra Bader Chashchalo V'Makir Lanu Gader, V'Amar Shvidachtav Lo Amar Klum. So Rab said that if someone is coming on Friday and he see that Shabbat is closed, so what did he see? He see like a very large tree, or he see like a large fence. So he measured. It's about 2,000 amah, 2,000 cubit from the places he. So now he makes the declaration. He says, okay, I'm dwelling under that spot. That's my domain.
That's his
so he said, Lo amar klum, it's nothing. That's the way we said in the Mishnah. However, if he said in such an unequivocal way, he said, this specific domain, this tree, this fence, that's there. And that place has to be in a condition of either 2,000 cubit or less from the place that he's now. It says fine. Why? Obvious. From that place that he make declaration, let's say if it's below than 2,000 or 2,000, he can go there, and from that spot he can go in extension of what? Another 2,000. Now we elaborate. That apply if it's not just empty wilderness. It's applied to where? It's a specific place. You see it, it's clear, that domain. I remember when I was in service, so I used to do a navigation. In my time, we used to do it individually. So they used to give us a place, a certain spot we need to reach. So we make for ourselves a certain landmark, so we know where we are.
Right.
So we can navigate to that. So if he has a specific spot. כגון ששבת בתל שהוא גבוה 10 טפחים והוא בארבע אמות על בצעתיים. You see this like a little mountain, but that have at least 10 handbreadth, okay? Meaning 10 or more. So it's considering the same as they have a partition. And the width, it at least 4 cubits. So, or the opposite way, if you see a valley, if the opposite way, it's a little valley that have at least 10 handbreadth, and they have 4 width and beit satayim. So he said that's different because you have a designated area. But if it's not clear, so Rashi here again use the word klomar. I wish that you have the time in my book. I wrote a lot in this Rashi what he meant. I went to all the specification. I urge you to have the time to read it if you have. But anyway, if it's a place that it's not clear, you don't know for sure. Give me an example of something that's clear, something that doesn't have the partition, or it's not a little valley or something like that. So you have to go to the original idea, which is in the public domain you can go only 4 cubits. Now another idea. You have 2 guys, one recognized, one not. So one that did not recognize, he depend on the other guy. He says we'll join together, right? So the one who said specifically, he can designate place, or Cheshek Shlomo said that you have to say in the plural, Shvitateinu, which means you and I are partner in that, so that we are together going to be in that spot. Which means when he make declaration is when it's clarified in advance, he set up the spot. But if he doesn't specify, it is an issue for him to go there. So again, where's the lemma ever to the Shmuel? So now there's an issue with Shmuel because Shmuel, what did he say? That even you don't specify, you can go for 4 cubits in that place, even we didn't make it retroactively. So he said, if it's 2004 from the place that he's in, now you enter the domain of complication, because if it's 2004, what is the limitation? We have 4 plus 2000. Now, from the place that he's in, if you measure, it's 2004. Does anybody have... let me show you first
They got it in the Gemara, the measurement of the 2000.
So can you read it?
Okay, yes. Certainly. He is thus left without any residence at all, since he cannot acquire the residence he wants beneath the tree. He has rejected the residence he could have in his present location. He is therefore restricted to the 4 amot where he is standing. The Gemara thus concludes that there are 2 possible interpretations of the Baraita. Rav interprets the Baraita to mean that one can never establish a Shabbat residence without designating a defined 4 amot area. Shmuel, on the other hand, interprets the Baraita to refer to a specific area and to teach that a person may not designate an undefined area as a Shabbat residence if it includes an area beyond his techum boundary.
Excellent. So that we said, thank you. So that's the issue, because otherwise you're stuck. Now the next scenario, if someone make a mistake, he make the eruv to 2 different domains. For example, we make one to the north, one to the south. He thought he can do both ways, which means he wants to go one place in the morning of Shabbat, one place in the hour. He said to his servant, go and make an eruv for me. Right? The people, one made the north, one south. Which means he can go on Shabbat to the north, the way that they put the measurement in the north, and the same. Why? Because he can make this place of dwelling in both places, because it's not clear which one of them. So let's see the Morot Daf, just a short picture. Picture number 185. Look at this story. This is the measurement. Okay? This is the place of dwelling. Okay? This is the north. Do you see it clearly?
Mm-hmm.
This is the south. So from place of dwelling, he can go the same measurement. You see the measurement in a square So this is the same way, the same side. It can go either north. It can go north and the south, the same way, because the issue here they made in a such a way that it can go either way and nothing was clear. Now, however, ואם יצאו על התחום לא יזוז מקומו. But if each of them put clearly something in a 2,000 amma, so he is stuck here and he cannot move from that location. Why? Because each of them avoided him from going the other way, and each of them made the total amount in full, right? So therefore he is stuck. He basically cannot go neither way. So they said here, Lema evet shuv to the Rav. So now it's very strong opposition to what Rav said, because what Rav said, he said, as long as it's not making a very clear declaration in a specific place, he's not taking it as a permanent. So here you see that it's retroactively a statement and it's done. Rav Tanu Refali, which means that Rav live in a different generation, that he has the power to, because he live in a generation between the Tanaim and Amoraim, so he has the power to dispute Tanaim. Now we learn in the Mishnah. אמר שביתתי בעיקרו, מהלך מקום רגליו עד דרכו 2,000 אמה, ומקרוא לביתו 2,000 אמה, נמצא מלך משכתך 4,000 אמה. So that's simple. We said if someone said that I'm in the essence of the tree, so you can go 2,000 each way, and altogether 4,000. 2 plus 2, it's 4. That's basically, if you see in the most probably new pictures, you see a place of dwelling. Then you see that it's 1,000, 1,000, and then you extend it and you go to 2,000 each way.
Right.
Now let's go to practical halachot. Shulchan Aruch Yoredea 331. Hamarbe b'maasrot. If a person tithes too much, the remainder of his produce is regarded as a tithe. However, the tithe portion is ruined. So therefore, one should tithe by measure and weight rather than by estimate. Now, if the other one is the animal issue, if two animals emerge together as a tenth, and he designated them both as a tenth, the 10th and the 11 animals basically are intermingled, and therefore the owner must wait until they develop a blemish, at which point he may be slaughtered and eating a non-sacred animal. That's Rambam, Hilchot Bechorot, chapter 8. The next one is if he makes up. He designated the 9 and as the 10th. So the halacha is that an error in counting can cause both the 9 and the 11 animal, but no others, to be concentrated as the animal type. In that case, with regard to 9 animal, one waits until it's developed a blemish, and the same story. Now, what in a Thanksgiving loaves, so if one brought 80 loaves to accompany his Thanksgiving, saying, let 40 of the 80 loaves be consecrated, he take 40 loaves for his thanks offering, while the rest are redeemed and eaten as a non-sacred bread. If one slaughtered the thanksgiving offering accompanied by 80 loaves without specifying, they are not consecrated. That's the Rambam. And the last halacha, we talk about a unclear situation, which means two people who are traveling together, one of whom is aware of a place where resident can be established, no further than 2,000 cubits from his present location. The one who is not aware of the place may entrust his right to select his residence to the one who is aware, and the later days, the other one said, my residence in such and such place, and it's basically applied to both of them. And we said that in that sense, the two Eiruvin, the idea of making two Eiruvin together, so if it's the two Eiruvin made in two different directions, whether due to ignorance or due to the error or on the part of his measures, as one establishes residence in two places, he may only walk within the limits permitted to him by each, which means that he cannot play in both sides. Shulchan Aruch Halacha in 412.
da